I never thought I'd be sitting in a crowded HOA meeting, neighbors whispering all around me, holding papers that proved the president of our community had been trying to evict me from my own home, while she was actually living in a house that I owned. Yeah. The woman who tried to drive me out didn't even realize her mortgage mess had handed me the keys to her front door. Act 1. The conflict begins. I'm Malik Patterson. 38 years old, worked my tail off for years to finally buy the house I always dreamed about, a 2-story brick place in Brentwood Estates, Tennessee. It had a wraparound porch, a clean yard, and enough space for family cookouts. It was peaceful, at least in my head. From the moment I pulled up with the moving truck, though, I felt eyes on me. Curtains shifting, people standing on porches a little too long, dog walkers slowing down just to stare. Nobody said hello. Nobody brought over cookies. Just silence. The next morning I met her, Barbara Whitman, 60-something, stiff as a board beige blouse pearls cardigan with an HOA pin stuck on it. She knocked like a cop, handed me a fat stack of HOA rules, and immediately started lecturing me about my moving truck, my trash bins, even the exact time I should roll them out to the curb. I kept my cool. "Nice to meet you too," I said. Maybe she was just uptight like a lot of HOA presidents. I figured if I followed the rules, she'd back off. I was wrong. Within a week I had a pile of violation letters. My car was unauthorized in my own driveway. My grass was too tall. My porch light was non-compliant. Meanwhile, I walked past neighbors with overgrown lawns, busted shutters, even trash cans spilling over, and not a single pink slip in their mailboxes. One evening I walked by a group of neighbors talking in a driveway. The second they saw me, they went quiet. One woman forced a smile. The rest just stared. And right in the middle, Barbara whispering like she was leading some secret council. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about rules. It was about me. Act 2. Escalation and the turning point. The next letter pushed me over the edge. It wasn't about grass or trash cans. Barbara demanded proof of ownership. Said neighbors were concerned I might be renting illegally. I laughed out loud. "You can pull the records yourself," I told her. "Public info." She pressed her lips together, smiled without warmth, and said, "If you don't comply, I'll have to escalate." That night I sat on the porch, beer in hand, watching her at the end of my driveway talking to some guy scribbling in a notebook. She wasn't just nitpicking anymore. She was building a case, trying to force me out. So I fought back. I started walking the neighborhood with my phone out, snapping pictures. Trash cans left out for days. Lawns high enough to hide a dog. Broken fences, faded numbers. I filed formal complaints with time-stamped evidence. The response: Barbara and her sidekick, Stephen Reynolds, the HOA vice president, showed up on my driveway. Stephen looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Barbara shoved another form at me. "Final warning. Replace your porch furniture. Keep your lawn at regulation height." I stared at her, then asked, "If I were one of my neighbors, would we even be having this conversation?" Stephen's face twitched. Barbara's jaw clenched. She didn't answer. I thought maybe that would cool her down, but no. The next week I got a thick envelope from a law office. Barbara had filed a complaint with the county housing authority accusing me of being a fraudulent occupant, like I'd broken into my own house. I held that paper in my hands, heart pounding, and for the first time I thought about quitting. Maybe I should just sell and move. Maybe Barbara was right. Maybe I didn't belong here. That night I sat in my living room surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, staring at the walls I'd worked so hard to earn, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Then I picked up my phone and dialed. "Joe." I said when my attorney answered, "I need a favor." Joe Martinez had been with me through every real estate deal. Smart, relentless, and meaner than Barbara could ever hope to be. He told me to breathe, that her complaint wouldn't hold water. And then he told me something else, something that flipped the entire game on its head. Turns out Barbara's house, 26 Oakwood Drive, had been foreclosed and auctioned off because of unpaid HOA debts. And guess who the new owner was? Me. The papers had cleared just weeks before. I hung up the phone with a smile for the first time in months. She wanted a fight. She had no idea who she was messing with. Act 3. The Showdown. 3 days later, the HOA held an emergency meeting. The community room was packed. Neighbors whispered, shifting in their seats, waiting for fireworks. Barbara sat at the head of the table, chin high, acting like a queen. "We're here to discuss the ongoing violations at Mr. Patterson's residence." She started holding up a stack of papers. I stood up, set my own folder on the table, and said I'd like to speak now. Her lips thinned. "You'll have your turn after—" No, I cut her off. "Now." The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. I pulled out the first document. "This is my deed. Legal proof I own my home. Filed, recorded, indisputable." I dropped it on the table. A few board members shifted uncomfortably. Then I pulled out another. "This is the purchase agreement for 24 Oakwood." I paused, then pulled out the final sheet. "And this is the deed to 26 Oakwood Drive, Barbara's house." Gasps rippled through the room. I didn't sit. I let it hang. Barbara's face drained of color. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "You might want to check the records, Barbara," I said, folding my arms. "That foreclosure you ignored, I was the buyer." The room erupted, murmurs, whispers, even a laugh or two. I wasn't done. I held up the legal complaint she'd filed against me. "You accused me of being a fraudulent occupant. Care to explain why?" "Because I spoke to neighbors, none of them recall making the complaints you claimed." Barbara stammered. "As I stated, concerns were raised. By who?" I shot back. Silence. She couldn't name a soul. Then I pulled out a stack of my own emails. "And let's talk about selective enforcement. Overgrown lawns, broken fences, trash bins out for days. I reported them all. Not a single violation issued. So tell me, do the rules only apply when Barbara says so?" The board members avoided my eyes. The crowd shifted, angry now, not at me, at her. I leaned in. "And one more thing. Barbara, you're behind on your HOA fees. Over $3,000. When I bought your house, I inherited the debt." Gasps again. One old neighbor shook his head. "You tried to evict the man who owns your home." Barbara's hands shook. Her perfect mask was crumbling. Stephen Reynolds cleared his throat. "We can put this to a vote." And just like that, the same neighbors who'd sat silently while she harassed me raised their hands. One by one, they voted her out. Barbara slammed her folder shut, snapped, "This meeting is adjourned," and stormed out, heels clicking against the tile. For the first time, no one followed her. Closing. That was the end. Barbara lost her title, lost her authority, and eventually lost the very house she thought gave her power. And me, I learned something simple. Real power doesn't come from titles or rules or making others feel small. It comes from knowing who you are and never letting anyone take that away.